What's going on, world? It's your boy Kuya P. This is the NRW Nerds Rule the World, back again for another amazing interview. You know how I love talking to my fellow creatives. As a creative, that's what we do. We need to talk to each other. It's that energy. I'm an empath. We feed off of each other. We vibe off of each other. And recently, my good pal, Glenn Lawrence on the squad and I was at Exotica DC 2022, having a great time talking to all the amazing folks. And he stumbled across this dope ass artist. He had this wonderful interview with her and got the chance to edit it up, put that product out together. So check out that interview with my guest on the channel. And Glenn just being his usual hilarious self. But now I get my time with Sugar Knuckles, y'all. She is the Mona Lisa of death. You're about to see her on the screen. We're gonna dive into everything. You see some of her work behind me, her logos, making beauty out of things that have passed, which I love. I think we still live on in things, and I think there's a lot to talk about here. I love her energy. I love her vibe. Let me bring her up on the screen. I'm gonna shoot off those air horns. You're about to see her in just a sec. I'm removing my pen. There she is. Sugar Knuckles. Air horns are going off right now. Sugar Knuckles. You don't hear right now because it's in post. I didn't want to deafen you. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thanks.
Please, I appreciate it. I hope Glenn Lawrence didn't turn you off too much. He's a comedian by trade, part of the team, but I enjoyed that conversation with you and him, and just getting to see other artists. I love, what you're about. You're the Mona Lisa of death, taking things that have passed, bringing it to life, your jewelry, that just, it's cool. I vibe off of that. Again, thank you for joining me. Let's get into that. How and when did this all start? Give me like a brief bio. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and then what inspired you to then becoming this creative artist that you are.
So we'll start from a little bit of the beginning. So I used to live in Columbus, Ohio, and I remember walking through the city because I used to walk on foot, or I used to bike. I didn't, living in the city, you don't need a car, through middle school, high school, and college, I was downtown Columbus most of my life. And you don't see wildlife, you don't see anything but industrial and like concrete and lights and music and noise. And I remember the couple of times that I had found like butterflies that I'd, either get caught between the buildings and they have nowhere to land, or they get worn out from the heat. And, so I'd find these like whole piece butterflies in the city. And so I kind of started collecting butterflies. And I think for a lot of people, that's kind of, you collect some kind of bug or like, so that started. And then I was attending Columbus College of Art and Design. So I do have my arts degree. It doesn't necessarily apply to me anymore. Nobody really cares about it. I don't even care about it. But I remember I was in ceramics class with this girl who, I think she was a hunter, if I remember correctly. And she gave me my first skull. I had always been obsessed with like metal, rock, like death, punk, heavy metal, and all that. And like, I always loved skulls. And then she gifted me one. I was like, are you sure? And then she gave me some vertebrae, and I was like, I'm in love. This is gorgeous. And then in college, I started incorporating, skulls that I would either find on the internet or like, my still life piece, and I'd start drawing and painting. And so I did that for a while. And then for, I would say, the 4 years that I was there, I was kind of like up and down all over, but I kept still trying to incorporate death. And then my senior thesis became about voyeurism. I don't know how I changed topics. But I thought it was a beautiful thing. And I had taken psychology about, basically life, death, and sex. And it escalated. And then I ended up moving to Virginia. Virginia wasn't, I guess, they didn't have the art community that like I needed. And so during that time, I was kind of by myself a lot. And, I started meeting people, and, I didn't quite have a job at the time, and I couldn't go back to school. I already had like my main degree, and they were like, "Oh, go to Richmond, go to Richmond." I'm like, I don't want to drive 2 hours, like, So that happened, and I basically, all these little things that I had collected over the years, I had in a box. It's just a little shadow box. And from that little shadow box, it started to expand. And not only that, I'm a thrifty kind of gal.
Okay.
And I love vintage and antiques. I love vintage and antique jewelry. And so by heart, I'm like a raccoon. I love shiny things, and I just want to collect and collect and collect. Well, I don't want to be a pack rat. So I started to incorporate them together because I'm like, they're just sitting in a box.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about these. And like, I want to share these, and I don't have enough body space or fingers to wear everything.
Yeah.
So I started making jewelry. I would say the first few years of Sugar Knuckles, was I really shorted myself on what I was like trying to sell, or which I think for anybody when you're starting out, you don't know where you belong in your bracket if you don't know anything about business or like what you're really getting into. You're just like winging it. And so I started from there. I was doing like mini farmers markets, and at first nobody was buying from me. I had little old ladies like,
yeah,
and a lot of like, did you kill this? Did you hunt for this? And there's a lot of negativity in what I was presenting because people didn't understand me at the time.
Yeah.
So the only time I was really like consistently like starting to sell more was like around Halloween. So people would only ever invite me to Halloween shows.
Yeah.
So I took a break, and I worked some other jobs in between while I was like still kind of like discovering Sugar Knuckles and whatnot. And I did my first tattoo show, is where like I made my first like real dollar sign. And I had such a thrill that like these people enjoyed my work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different styles relating with like bone and crystal and antique. And sometimes certain jobs won't let you express yourself like that. And like, we're getting further into the years and stuff where now tattoos are acceptable and things like that. But I wanted fine art, dainty jewelry to wear. You could wear it to a wedding. You really gotta look. Is that a raccoon dick? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I started off very crystally and dainty and colorful. And I still do the very dainty pieces, maybe not so colorful, but now I really try to execute with the one of a kind and the unique and hard to find. And like even at one point I had camel teeth. Like you wouldn't think of a camel really. Who thinks about camel's teeth,
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that goes behind it. And so when this first tattoo event happened, I started booking like all these other shows. The oddities lifestyle and marketplace and just in general with that kind of revenue is extremely on the like incline. And as I started to get more into it, and they're like, hey, oddity show, like, let's go. I'm like, okay. So, as an artist, I'm very, I'm not like a typical artist, and I'm not a typical, crafter or collector and things like that. And I'm very scattered all about in like my social media because, I'm a human being too. And with me being a human being, I have a life outside of this.
Yeah.
So I don't really post a lot of where I'm going unless it's like big major shows. And so I'm almost like a Binksy where I just pop up and like you either buy it or you don't because you're never going to see it again kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah.
And people call me Sugar, and they're like, "Oh, I got something from you, like this last show. Can you make it again?" And this and that. And so, I started doing like more of the oddity shows, but now it's so popular. It's like if you're not on it, you miss it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other artists than just myself that go over and beyond with like their creations of working with bones and crystal, and the people that have unlimited supply on their own like lands and stuff. I'm like, maybe one day I'll get one.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot. Okay, we win full board. Thank you, Sugar. I got so many questions out of that. So, one of the things I gathered is you really create for yourself, but you've experimented. You've kind of created, or am I right? Did you created for self, and then you started experimenting a little bit, creating for what you saw that the crowd dug, I guess, in ways, but then returned it to your own style, and it just yourself. Well, I think as all artists, we're always still trying to figure it out, what will hit and what gravitates. So maybe talk to me about that. Talk to me about, when you first started creating for self and expressing yourself. What was that like? So like you said earlier, you got this first skull. Like, do I want to paint on it or add elements to it? Tell me about, if you could. I'm interested in that creative process and that journey of how we build up our thoughts, and what was that like for you? If you can recall that, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I'm gonna move this. If you can talk to me a little bit about that.
So, I guess when I first started, I was experimenting with all kinds of mediums and things like that. And when I did start to create, I was using like pretty high quality material I didn't know was high quality at the time. And I'm like, shucks, I shouldn't have used that for that. Or, so
save some money.
It's a trial and error, because trying to figure out what works for you. And like, yes, it takes practice, but if you make something and someone else is like, it's waiting there for someone else to come up and buy it. And that's kind of why I make only like one real good like giant piece, and then I'm like, my time is valued to me and what I put into this piece, and if someone wants to buy it, someone will buy it. And sometimes it's out of people's budgets or it's right in their budget. And I don't have a solid like number for things. I'm like, it's 5, it's 10, it's 50 or 100, like I'm like, whatever. But it's, when I got that first skull, being in the city, you don't see that stuff. You don't really, we didn't have an oddities thing. We had like tattoo galleries and studios, and then we had art museums. And so I grew up around art, and I like really cherish art history, what other people have to do. And like, I always say, you got to start somewhere to get somewhere. And it doesn't matter if you fall, and it doesn't matter if you have to keep getting back up. Just keep trying, like keep going. And if it's not for you, take a step back, take a break. And when I remember I made like my first like wall mount, I actually traded it to tattoo artists to get some tattoos done. And for me, it wasn't about the money. It was about the value of how much you really appreciated this piece. And like, what are you willing to do, in trade if you value this piece just like this? And I'm not asking for money. And, it's almost kind of like the old ways that like the community supports the community. And it's not about money. It's about like the love of art and the love of supporting one another.
I dig that. And I feel that. Respect. Okay. Again, I love how you do incorporate these skulls and bringing, life again to things that have passed, life and death, the Mona Lisa of death, if you will, your tagline. I started losing my question there. Can you tell me about, okay, I know where I'm at. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm coming back. Y'all see this live right now. We're doing it. With that kind of art, throughout history, I'm a big history guy as well. you know, we've seen the natives, we've seen indigenous tribes, how they respect death as well in the native cultures. I'm being Filipino, tattoo art to me, I think started in the Philippines and then it came over from the to the US and with everything else. But like we do that, and we also, you know, our skulls, and we kind of recreate these things. Did you do any like historical research, I guess is my question, in like, so you were doing this art for yourself. What when you find this kind of art form, you know, you see if there's, I don't know about you, but like I look to see what my competitors are doing, if there's other people doing it, because I want to be different, you know, and find my own niche. Can you tell me about like research and then maybe also process? As you said earlier, a lot of this kind of started because of your love for music, death metal, all of that. I'm a music cat myself. I listen to everything. I'm very hip hop, but I love everything music. You know,
so I like to dance, not gonna lie.
I grew up on Leonard Skinner and Grateful Dead. My dad is a classic rock guy. So like this is me right here. Like I love all music. But yeah, so like research is part one of my question, and then I guess process. Like, are you listening? Like, what kind of music are we listening to? How do you vibe when you're in the state of creation?
So I will say, when I was a child, I was actually obsessed with like the Egyptian culture. I grew up in South Carolina a long time ago, where my mom was friends with some natives. And so I did go to powwows and things like that, and actually get to experience like a little bit of different cultures. And, the city, I like the city because you can meet different cultured people. And that's why I like going to these shows. I love meeting people. I love connecting and being inspired. And so when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Egyptian, Book of the Dead, how you would mummify someone. I could tell you, I was like, yeah, you do this, scramble the brain and rip it out. And, this 11-year-old girl is like telling you how to mummify someone, And so being around that. And then I remember seeing, my mom's Native American friends, and even with like the pagans and the Wiccans, they're using animal pieces. But, I was more fascinated. I'm like, who the hell takes a piece of bone and like sits there and curves it and like makes it into a bead? Like, who came up with this exactly? Like, to like, this is sturdy to be a bead. This will outlast you, And so I was mesmerized by like their decorative headdresses and all kinds of things like that. And then growing up, I was into fashion, and I had a evil dragon woman of a fashion teacher, and she was like, not everybody wears black. You can't always make everything black. Now look at today, lady. Like everybody wears black. Like it is fashion. It is, everything. And then, I also grew up in the tattoo community. So being around that, everybody had piercings and like, the stretched earlobes and tattoos. I'm like, that's so beautiful to be able to express yourself in such a way. And so I was like, I want to get tattooed. I want to do piercings and, this and that. But then there's a lot of people that like, your body is your temple. So make sure when you decide to do something with it, that it's going to take care of you and really show the love and care that you have for yourself, whether that is modifying your body or not, either way, and however you want to do it. So living in the city, I will say the thrift stores back in the day were a lot better than they are today, because people didn't know what the hell they were looking at. You're looking at like dropped off estate sales. You're looking at, your neighbor down the street just passed, and, they went and dropped stuff off at the thrift store, and like it's coming from all over. And so I used to go to thrift stores, and they used to sell jars of broken jewelry, and like they never knew what they had at the time, and you're paying like $5-10 for like, I even found a wedding diamond tiara that was like a $300 find, and I ended up giving it to one of my friends who got married, and she's like, why'd you spend that kind of money to get something like this? I said, no, you're good. And so, and I think I was learning visually and hands-on about texture, the things you could make, what people would do and use. And, you'd find this old vintage stuff and it's made from shell, it's made from bones, it's made from melted vinyl plastic of like, oh my gosh, what is it called? Records, And so with that, I was fascinated to how intricate people would make this stuff to like preserve forever. And so I guess like everything kind of started off with like, how the hell was this made? Or like, why this is going to outlast us. And like, it's so beautiful for the next generation or the next person who gains it to appreciate it as much as I did. And so then throughout college, I did jewelry, I did ceramics, I did glass blowing, welding, I was painting, I was doing watercolor. I did everything I could get my hands on to see like where I belonged, because I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. Nobody tells you like, hey, you need to decide the first time when like after your first semester, you need to figure out what the hell you want to be when you grow up. And I'm like, I just want to be an artist. Like, I just want to make things. And after that, I started tinkering with the things that I had. And so I already had the supplies. I just didn't know because I didn't know, I didn't understand what I was looking at and just knew I collected. Then right before COVID, I actually went to Guadalajara, Mexico, and I had the most beautiful experience of my life of being out of the country. And the Day of the Dead, I was obsessed with, and the way that like certain cultures honor their dead, and the decoration of life and death, the Guadalupe, and all of this other beautiful stuff. And I went down there for 2 weeks. I got to eat and hang out with nuns at a church, got to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I got to climb a bell tower. I had to drink filtered water. I ate wild rabbit. I ate cactus, went to a coral island, and holy cow, what an eye-opening experience to see the beauty and the color, the decoration. No matter what holiday it is, they go over and beyond, and people are so drawn to this. And then I came home and I started making domes, and I was collaborating with my bugs, with my bones, and I went beyond jewelry because I was inspired while being in a different country, and it was so beautiful. And I know that having appreciation for other culture is something to really value, because like you came from somewhere else and you value that and you appreciate that. But I love experiencing different cultures, and I'm actually inspired by different cultures, but it all evolves around like death and life. And the process of that has been so up and down. And even, I don't know if you guys watch TikTok or anything like that, but there is a woman that may have found Cleopatra's tomb. And it's funny because, throughout history and all this, you got to think the inspiration of how like man has written history and changed history and stuff. And now we have upcoming strong women that believe in like the Mother Earth and life and death. And so the idea of women and like men, just we make things, and like things can be beautiful and not so hectic, and all this other like life, death, beauty, and collaboration of like a community and a culture. So yeah.
No, I feel that. I dig that. And I do like a good Goodwill find. I can't get it twisted. I'm over in there checking it out every now and then on my way. Oh, let me go check out what they got in today.
What's the thing you found out?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
What's the craziest thing you found at a thrift store?
Ooh, good question. Throwing it back at me. Wow, I found a lot of cool stuff unexpectedly. Um, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm looking at a TIE fighter at the moment that I got at Goodwill recently, a big ass Star Wars TIE fighter. I'm a big nerd, right? This is Nerds Rule the World. I'm looking at the moment, but I know I know I've gotten better stuff than this TIE fighter looking at me.
Right.
Anyway, so I'm assuming like from everything you're saying as well, you're always in process as a creative, right? So like I'm sure you're putting together, you know, this fabulous piece, and then like all of a sudden, are you like, I gotta go to Goodwill to maybe find something here real quick that will just set this off, or I gotta go this way, that way. Is that a constant state of being for you as well as an artist?
Always on
you're never just like flatly, you have all the products in front of you.
Yeah.
It's never that way, right? And you're it's just not right. So I've got to go and do this. So they're never just finished off, you know, in one session, correct?
Exactly. A lot of pieces take, some will take days, some will take weeks. And I think this goes for every artist, you got a pile of projects over there in that corner and you're like, I'll get to it. And you're like, okay, maybe I'll pick this up. And you eventually, like that one random day without planning, you finish that project. You're like, oh, that was fucking great. And I know half my stuff at Exotica, boy, I was up at maybe 6 a.m. I wouldn't go to bed till like almost 9 or 10. And I was like in my studio cranking out stuff. I was like, okay, I need to make something that's handheld. Like they just want to take it off my table. I want to make big things like where they have to like really, you know, we got to cut the zip ties and like pull it down and like they carry it with pride. And that wall mount that I made, you know, that one took me like 3 days, but I really like focused and rushed because I'm like, I don't have a big piece. And so I probably inhaled so much glue fumes. I probably should have done it outside, but the amount of work I was putting in that I fell in love with it and people loved it. And it was inspired by like wine and I made it for Exotica. And I was like, this has gotta be exotic. It's gotta be sexy. And the whole time I made it, I didn't drink any wine. So, but it was inspired by wine.
There we go.
You know, I would say last year was probably the busiest and the hardest time of, you know, my artist career because coming out of the woodworks of like being known like, oh, hey, I've heard of her or like I've heard of them. And, you know, it started to grow that, you know, it's more about the supply and the demand. And so I started reaching out into different revenues of like, you know, people want, I hate to say it, people are going to buy what they want, but there are people that like, I really love your stuff, but I don't have the funding for it today, but I know I can afford this. And like, that's real. Like people struggle. People are allowed to have a good time. And, you know, they're like, I'm on a budget. Completely okay. So I make budget friendly things because I've had a lot of genuine people be like, I own some of your work from when you first started. I'm like, oh, thank you. And they're like, I can't get in today, but I'm going to be back. I'm like, that's right. You know, so having that kind of like love and support of no matter who, what, when, where has been inspiring to keep going. And I think this year I'm actually booked up for quite a few big shows. And one really big one that I'm working on right now, I do have some tattoo events coming up in Virginia, the Hampton Roads Tattoo Convention. Then I work on the Haunted Screams Expo in Hampton. I'm on their committee and I've been working with them for the past like 3.5, almost 4 years. And they're an upcoming horror convention that is absolutely like amazing and very community oriented and like the support of the artist. Then my top favorite, it's only invite, but I wrote them an email. I'm like, hey, you guys were like my very first tattoo convention. I'm an upcoming artist from here. And, this is my hometown. I want to represent. They're like, invite sent. It's like, oh, shit. Oh, my God. Hell City Tattoo Convention gave me an invite to be a part of their community, which is a big, big, big to do for me. And not being a tattoo artist, but being an artist myself from that area, like I'm going home to like represent, like, this is who I am. Like, look at me go, guys. And so it all depends on who, what, when, where that like I go to. And each event is different. I try to provide as much unique, one of a kind pieces that, that resonate with me and who I am and what I really want to show is, there's the preservation of death is something beautiful to really look at and continue to like enjoy, even though they're no longer with us. And then involving antiques, you don't know what you're going to find. You don't know who, what, when, where. And, I've taken old mirrors that were cracked and I used the frames for pieces. I've done old clocks. I've done old timey picture frames, and it's all about what you can make. And so some shows I might have a lot, some shows I might not.
Dope. I love this energy. Let's go. Just to further add on some promo with Sugar, make sure you follow her on TikTok at Sugar Knuckles, Instagram at Sugar Knuckles, as well as on Facebook at Sugar Knuckles Art. I'm gonna have all those links in the description below, y'all. So make sure you click on that after you're done watching this interview and support the homie Sugar Knuckles. All right, I got a big question for you, Sugar. Maybe one that also can kind of put some of the haters at rest. One of the things I love is when you incorporate skulls and bringing again life to something that has passed. You received one from, that's kind of kicked it off from a friend. How do you now get these arts? You're not out there killing or whatever, let's put that controversy at rest, if you will, like, that's you've received here and there. I'd love to let you help clear that slate and tell them tell the people how you incorporate this art into your art.
So everything that I have is either ethically sourced by me to where I'm walking in nature and I find it. And during those nature walks, I'm asking for guidance and kind of like a spirituality thing of like cleansing and like centering myself to find peace. And if I feel like there's times that like when I do find bones or like snake skin or things like that, I'm like, oh, I did it right. Like, okay, I found my center today and this is like a gift. I'm not super spiritual, but I'm pretty spiritual in like, okay, when things pop up, there's a reason, and it's not necessarily doing the right thing for everybody else expecting something in return, but it's doing something for myself to really do and be able to give back to the community with my work. And so a lot of my stuff is ethically sourced, or it is ethically sourced from other people who are like, I have these bones, or like they had a pet passing, or hey, I found this at the thrift store, antique shop, all kinds of, or these were my grandfather's. Now, there are people who collect and source bones for like a living that are like halfway across the states and stuff. And so there is a community of where people ethically source, and just like, with livestock and stuff, that's a pretty popular thing to like buy, but then everybody's trying to go smaller. And so like even with this cow skull, it just has some horns on it, like someone nailed to, that I found at a thrift store. Like, oops, like, it is what it is. But I guess you can say that's like ethically sourced because it came from the thrift store. And so, people also, when they see me, they're like, oh my God, you're here. I didn't know you were coming. I have something for you. And I'm like, okay. And they come back around and they're almost like it's like meeting another raccoon. They're like, I got something for you. And here you go. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And that exchange of energy, that when people see dead weird stuff, they think of me and they're like, I got a gift for you. And then in trade, I really value other people's time and energy that they give to me when I'm doing my work. And when I hear them hype up, like, I love this, it fills my heart up. And so usually in trade, and this can go from for anybody out there, that, if you want to source me with bone supply or crystals, antiques, anything like that, I usually make things in trade. Because there's tons of people that are like, I don't want nothing in return. Like, don't give me no money. And I try to hey, this, but they don't see the value in it as much as I do, or something beautiful that I could make with it. And so in trade, I usually try to make something back in return, so you have a piece of what you've been able to provide for me. So, receiving and then being able to give back is like a big part of what I do. So, and I trade with a lot of artists too. I'm like, hey, I like this. You up for trades, artist to artist? They're like, hell yeah. And I remember I had someone tell me that, you're here to make money and blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't be trading off your supply. And I'm like, you know what, though? It's not always about the money. It's about the experience and being able to appreciate other people's art, whether they want money or they just want something just as awesome in return with that same energy.
I love that. I love this energy. I'm vibing off of that. Again, I'm an empath for real, so this energy is appreciated. Thank you for that. So let's leave it out. Let's close it out with just 3 pearls of wisdom. The 3 top pearls that you generally kind of put out there with your friends, family, or as an artist, creative, that you if you're to give something to somebody, like you're imparting, this amazing conversation with me right now. For those that are going to be watching and listening to this as well, let's close them out with something. Let's and maybe life lessons, maybe something that you failed and you learned from it. If we can get 3 major ones, it could be, a whole experience or just a statement or of inspiration.
Don't stop doing what you love. If you're going to do something that you love, make sure that nobody else fucks it up for you and you rely on anybody else to do it for you. That's a deep one.
Okay.
My personal, I don't think anybody's ever said this, so I'm going to quote it. I've always said, and I'll say it again, you got to start somewhere to get somewhere. And it doesn't matter. And as long as you're not hurting anyone in the process, keep going.
Okay. I feel that.
Close
me out. One more.
Ooh, hard one. Give me 3. I guess be kind to people, be kind to animals, be kind to each other, and be kind to the earth, because you only get to live once and you don't know if someone's going to make something beautiful out of you later or not, if you're an asshole.
Let's go. I love it. All right. I want to add one more to yours from hearing this, all the amazing notes that you've given me of inspiration from this conversation. One that I gathered and hit me as well, because it's one that I had to find out for myself, is while we may try to go and pursue our love and our passions, our art, we may hit roadblocks. We may go out to this show and it may not be for us. You got to find your tribe, find your people, and then you'll find your audience. And then, like you said, last year, you were super successful. It was a closeout year, and now we're heading, and 2023 is going to be even brighter and bigger for you. I feel it. I'm sending you those vibes. I definitely want to say that. And to everybody watching, while we may feel alone, you're not alone. There's people here that are vibing and doing the same thing as you. We will connect and we'll vibe and we'll build and we'll continue. Just like I have found you, Sugar. Thank you for this energy. Thank you for all of this. Everybody, make sure you check her out on TikTok at Sugar Knuckles, on Instagram at Sugar Knuckles, as well as on Facebook at Sugar Knuckles Art. I'm gonna have all the links in the description below. Give her a follow, give her some love. And then Sugar, I hope to see you at a convention so we can vibe in person.
Conventions. There's All American Haunted Screams, Hell City, and the Hampton and not Norfolk, Virginia Beach ones in Virginia. So come on out.
There you go. Say hello to Sugar. I'll hopefully be there too, so we can all vibe, we can all chill, we can all party, and just take in this amazing work that Sugar Knuckles puts together. It's your boy Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. Until next time.
Bye, guys.
All right, there we go.